Welcome back to the channel. Today I will be exploring one of the most charming and historic villages on the Isle of Wight, the postcard perfect village of Godshill, with its old worldly thatched cottages, cosy tea rooms and a beautiful church steeped in history perched on the top of the hill. This place feels like walking into a storybook. Let's go and explore. So Godshill is one of the oldest villages on the island. It's first mentioned all the way back in the 12th century. It quickly became known for its beautiful medieval layout, which has barely changed since. The name Godshill has a legendary origin that we will get into later in the video when we explore the church. So before doing any exploring, I need to get my morning coffee. This time I'm visiting Cook and Baker, which is a very quaint little cafe in Godshill, and it's got this absolutely adorable outside area and garden, which was great to enjoy a rather rare, beautiful sunny day in the UK. You definitely have to make the most of them when they come. So I really enjoyed sitting and having my coffee here. We got these little mini jammy dodgers and cookies with our coffee. And inside they have some absolutely delicious looking cakes and pastries. If you like sweet things, I don't have a sweet tooth at all, so I didn't try any, but you would definitely enjoy them if you do. This cafe also had a super cute little pin board by the door, which I knew I needed to come and revisit before leaving, where you could write some stresses and worries that you wanted to let go of and pin them on the board and leave them behind. I also quite enjoyed reading a few things other people wanted to get rid of. Some of them were really quite funny. So I'm going to get rid of some of my worries before I come into this cafe. Money and love issues, be gone. I'm eradicating these two people's worries with mine. Hopefully someone will come and take mine away. There we go. One of the first things you'll notice about Godshill is its beautiful thatched cottages, which are some of the most photographed in the whole of England. Many of these buildings date back several centuries, and today many have been made into little craft shops, tea rooms and traditional pubs. Godshill is also home to the famous Godshill Model Village. Unfortunately, we didn't have time to fit this in because we only had 2 hours in Godshill. Knowing now just how much there is to do in this tiny village, I would definitely come back, and the model village would be on the top of my list. The model village is a tiny recreation of Godshill and nearby Shanklin. It's meticulously detailed and complete with miniature people, thatched roofs, and even little churches. However, if for some reason you don't want to visit, or maybe the entrance fee is expensive and you're traveling on a budget, don't worry, I've got you on this channel, because I've got something equally as cool to show you, which is the free fairy garden tucked away behind the old smithy. Created with love by a local team, this miniature fairy garden comprises of tiny fairy homes, colourful characters and fun little scenes that are dispersed between the plants and garden. Many of the scenes and fairies are even made from recycled materials. So the fairy garden actually changes throughout the year and new characters appear and others move around. So it's worth visiting even if you visited before. So whilst you're in Godshill, be sure to take a minute to wander through this little fairy garden. It's quirky, it's free, and it adds a sprinkle of magic to your visit to the Isle of Wight. The garden was originally the work of Reg Andrews, who was a local butcher in Godshill. In 1948, he acquired the premises of the old blacksmith's forge, known now as the Old Smithy. The forge was no longer operating by the time he bought it, and the building was being used for postcards and a tourist business. Reg's real passion, however, was the garden at the back. There was originally a charge to enter the garden, but he later decided to make it free, and instead he asked for donations which he directed to local charities and hospices. According to one blog, the garden now raises £2,000 to £3,000 a year, which honours Reg's original concept for the property, which was to have the business and then the philanthropic project on the side in order to give back to the community. After spending way too long in the fairy garden because it's just so addictive to try and uncover every little nook and cranny, we had a look at some of the local shops. There's lots of gift shops, crystal shops, and there's certainly no shortage of tea rooms and cafes in Godshill, that's for sure. You'll have plenty of choice as to where you want to sit down and enjoy a delicious tea or coffee before continuing with your exploring. Before we left the Isle of Wight completely, we had just enough time to run up to the Church of All Saints, which is probably Godshill's most famous building. The Church of All Saints sits high on the hill overlooking the village, and according to legend, this was not where it was originally supposed to be built. The story goes that builders began constructing the church on lower ground, but each night the stones they had laid during the day mysteriously moved to the top of the hill. This to them was a clear sign of divine intervention that the church should be built on top of the hill. That's how Godshill supposedly got its name. It was quite literally the hill chosen by God. The church you see today dates largely back to the 14th century, although parts of it are even older. Inside you'll find medieval stonework, carved wooden beams, and a peaceful atmosphere that has remained unchanged for hundreds of years. One of the church's most fascinating features is this medieval wall painting of a lily crucifix. It's one of the rarest of its kind in England. These paintings were once hidden beneath layers of whitewash during the Reformation, and they were rediscovered centuries later. The painting is from the 1400s, and instead of a wooden cross, Christ is depicted as being crucified on a lily, symbolizing purity and divine mystery. This is one of only 2 or 3 such paintings that survive today in the whole of Europe. Another interesting feature about this church is the stained glass windows on the north wall, which are by the William Morris Studio. The church also has a couple of other features that make it pretty rare, including a double nave and double chancel, a rare layout that gives it a unique symmetry and presence. The church was built in a perpendicular Gothic style, and it includes many of its original beams which arch over you like the ribs of an overturned ship. Here you can see the alabaster effigies of Sir John Lee and his wife Agnes. On their monument, instead of the more common motif of dogs at the feet, boars are shown instead, which is unusual and it is noted in the church history. Under their feet at the base are monks praying, which is symbolic, presumably they are praying for their souls. It's likely that the site of All Saints Church was holy even before Christianity and was possibly used for pagan worship. In England, it was common for Christian churches to be built on older sacred sites, often pre-Christian or pagan. The reasoning was that it helped ease the transition from paganism to Christianity by keeping people accustomed to visiting the same sacred place. Scholars also note that hilltop churches in particular often correspond to older ritual sites. Definitely take in the view from the church as well. You get a wonderful view over the village, and it's no surprise why it's such a popular spot for painters and photographers. Thanks for joining me whilst I explored Godshill. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell for more travel adventures. See you on the next one.